and take my time with this one. All right. So I'm listening to a conversation between two white folks, right? And one person is woke and the other person is not woke, right? And the person who is woke is just using common sense to look at, what's taking place in our country and realizing that some of these systems are very, very flawed, right? And there are people, particularly people of color, who are behind the eight ball because the system benefited other people, not them. And so although there have been things to, quote unquote, provide equity and equality, because of the deficit, it's really hard for those people to truly take advantage of the resources to really, really level up, right? And the other person is convinced that things are equal, right? And so not only are they convinced that things are equal, but they are kind of all over the place with their logic, right? Very inconsistent in how they're attacking the problem, right? I don't know why I did this, like it's a gun or something. But anyway, this is what I took from this situation, and I think it's something that might be of some use as you kind of deal with other people in your life that have opposing views, right? This is what I took from it. The person that was not woke, right? They were, and I like to believe the best in people, they were what I think experiencing some internal conflict. There's an internal war going on, right? Because there's this notion, this romanticized notion of what this country is, this romanticized notion or idea of what this country is, right? That they're holding on to, that they're holding on with every muscle in their body. They're holding on to the notion or the idea of what this country is, what it stands for, so on and so forth, because that's what the country has shown them, right? Not being a person of color. But then they're also watching the news, they are watching society in general, and they're realizing that there's a chance that this idea of what I think this country is about may be flawed, it may be compromised, it may not be true. I may have to reimagine or reevaluate this country so I can reimagine it for what it truly is, not what I have always thought it was, simply because of how it impacted me or the person that it was not woke, right? And so what I said is that person is all over the place in their logic because they are dealing with the reality that this is what this world is really like. But what about everything that I was told was right? What about everything that I always believed? What about all my ideas and so on and so forth? So they're constantly going back and forth between what they always thought and what they are kind of acknowledging, what they can't help but see, right? The challenge is, for that person, the challenge is, do they hold on tight to their previous ideas and concepts about this flawed system, or do they acknowledge what the other person who is woke has to say? Because here's the issue with that. Holding on tight to what they think is true signs their permission slip to be crazy and talk out of line and talk foolishly, and to not have to acknowledge what's going on. Like, they don't have to acknowledge systems. They don't have to acknowledge the truth about systems and disparity and equality. They don't have to acknowledge that if they hold on tight to what they believe is true. But if they acknowledge what the other person is saying, then that means they got to do some homework. They got to do some research. They got to go back to the drawing board. They have to kind of reconfigure, reimagine. They gotta exercise empathy. They gotta go to a different place and really acknowledge what's in front of them and possibly ask for forgiveness, forgive. They gotta do almost a transformation, right? So understand, when you are talking to people who will not acknowledge common sense, will not acknowledge common sense, understand there's probably an internal conflict going on within them, because they may be seeing what you're seeing, but they don't really want to acknowledge it, because if they acknowledge it, then that means that they have to now adjust their character. They have to adjust their view, their points of view. They have to adjust their lens. They have to adjust their person altogether. But on the flip side of things, they can kind of hold on tight to this warped train of thought, then it signs the permission slip to keep acting crazy, saying crazy things, and be negligent of what's actually in front of them, right? So it's more so giving you some understanding to help you kind of deal with folk who are either experiencing an internal battle or potentially just foolish. And the fear for them is they don't want to have to adjust. So they rather be blind on purpose, because they know that if they acknowledge what's in front of them and they see what everybody else is seeing, now they got to make some adjustments, and most people don't want to make that adjustment. But some people are willing to, some people are not. Marv Fox Jr., I help highly ambitious people discover their purpose with 2 simple questions. Done.